A photograph of the sun rising, taken from Havergate Island towards Orford Ness. Havergate is an island on the Suffolk coast, just inside Orford Ness. There you can see the buildings. It's a National Trust property now. The island is an RSPB reserve, and my wife and I volunteer there, both as guides for walks and also to do work parties. Heading round south, you can just about make out Felixstowe docks in the distance. Early in the morning, short-eared owls come out to play. There were 2 or 3 hanging around, a bit late in the year for them maybe, but they were still hunting up and down the coastline. Little wagtails. These guys were nesting in one of the sheds, and they happened to fledge the day after we arrived. We were there to do all sorts of little jobs, little maintenance tasks, but you can't go somewhere like Havergate without taking the camera, and it's easy to get distracted and take photographs. Herring gulls can be very defensive of their nesting areas, and it was clear that this one had had a nest underneath one of the local water butts, catching the water from the roof. There were no eggs left and no chicks, but it was still having a right go at us. Just those little warning chirps. It didn't attack us. It was just warning us off. And this was why. Creeping back out of the undergrowth came one of the chicks that had wandered off. No wonder the herring gull was shouting at us. The kestrel was a regular visitor to us, hovering over the gorse bushes, looking for mice and voles. Common gulls nest here too. Not many, just a few pairs. They use boxes on posts, not too far away from the huts. Very smart birds. They hang around, and luckily this year we have some chicks. You can see them here, just poking their heads out of the box underneath. We make it a policy not to go too close to them, not to disturb them. All of these pictures are shot from quite a distance away. They're very attentive parents, shooing off anybody they don't want around, especially the big gulls like herring and lesser black-backed. They're very aggressive, despite their diminutive size. Not too sure what this lesser black-backed gull was doing. It seemed to be blowing bubbles in the water. Hares are a common sight on the island. There's a reasonably decent population, and they do seem to be very chilled out. As people who have watched my videos and photographs before will well know. This one was quite relaxed, having a little rest really. Some of them were chasing around. It does look as though the first batch of leverets might have matured, and the adults are back looking at mating again. They will have a number of broods in a year. Little Chinese water deer appearing was a welcome sight. We don't see them very often, apart from footprints in the mud. But this particular hare galloping across the salt marsh was a great thing to spot and be able to video, even if it was rather brief. They eat quite a lot of plants on the salt marsh. They must be quite high in salt. After all, this gets flooded every few days. But the plant life grows well, and it seems to sustain them, and they don't seem to suffer too much harm. Although Havergate is well known for avocets, in recent years it's been the spoonbills that have captured everybody's attention. They first bred successfully a few years ago, back in 2020. It was the first time in Suffolk for over 300 years, so there was a lot of excitement at the time. And now we have quite a nice little population breeding on the island. Things are looking good for this year too, although it's too early to say just how many will fledge. This one was certainly feeding up well, and then disappeared back to the nesting area to feed the youngsters. At the opposite end of the day to the short-eared owl, the barn owls come out. There are a couple on the island nesting. This one, in that nest box there, comes and hunts over the gorse quite regularly in the evening. The hares that live there aren't in any danger. They're a bit too big to be taken, but certainly there are plenty of mice, voles, even rats are food for the barn owl. Ghosting along on those silent wings. It's always a bit magical at the end of the day to stand outside the front of the hut and watch them hunting. Eventually, though, it gets too dark to do anything but take a final sunset picture.